before you immerse yourself in this deeply moving narrative of unwavering spirit, unexpected kindness, and triumphant return, remember to subscribe to our channel, like this video, and comment below with where you're tuning in from. Your support helps us share more heartwarming stories. The janitor who cracked the code. How a humble employee solved a $1 million problem in seconds. It's impossible. I've been working on this for 72 hours and nothing. Ethan Vance ran his hands through his hair, staring at the screens that glowed with red error lines everywhere. If I don't solve this in the next few hours, we lose the government contract. That's $50 million down the drain. Sarah Miller stopped her mop and looked up from the corner of the office, where she was cleaning in silence. She had been working as a night cleaning employee at Tech Solutions for 8 months, always invisible to the executives who occasionally stayed late. But tonight was different. The company's CEO was on the verge of a nervous breakdown. None of my senior programmers could solve it, Ethan muttered, hitting the desk in frustration. The authentication system crashes every time we try to process more than 1,000 simultaneous users. It's a deadlock in the authentication mutex, Sarah said in a low, almost whispering voice. Ethan turned as if he had seen a ghost. There she was, navy blue uniform, white cap, yellow cleaning gloves. But her eyes were fixed on the screens, as if she understood every line of code. "Excuse me?" he asked, unable to believe what he had just heard. Sarah felt her heart race. She had given herself away, but seeing the desperation in that man's eyes, she couldn't hold back. "It's a concurrency problem," she said, slowly taking off her gloves. "When several threads try to access the same resource at the same time, they get stuck waiting for each other. Like when 2 people arrive at a narrow door at the same time and neither can pass." Ethan stared at her. This woman, whom he had seen cleaning his office for months without truly noticing her, was talking about programming as if she were an expert. You understand this?" Sarah timidly approached the desk. Her hands trembled slightly. "Can I see the code?" Without knowing why, Ethan stepped aside. Sarah sat in front of the computer and began to read the lines of code with a speed that left him speechless. "Here's the problem," she murmured, pointing to a specific section. "You're using nested locks without a consistent order. Look, this thread acquires lock A first, and then B, but this other one does the opposite." Her fingers began to move over the keyboard with astonishing agility. Sarah modified 3 functions, reordered the lock calls, and added a timeout to prevent infinite waits. "Now we test," she said, compiling the code. Ethan watched in silence, still processing what he was seeing. In less than 30 seconds, all the screens showed green lights. The system worked perfectly. "My God," he whispered. "How is this possible?" Sarah quickly stood up, as if she had just realized what she had done. I'm sorry, Mr. Vance. I shouldn't have interfered." No, wait." Ethan stepped between her and the door. "Who are you really?" Sarah lowered her gaze, nervous. "I'm Sarah Miller. I've been working night cleaning for 8 months. I know that already. What I want to know is how a cleaning employee solved in seconds what my best programmers couldn't solve in 3 days." Silence stretched between them. Sarah could hear her own heart pounding. "I studied software engineering," she finally confessed. 6 semesters at the University of Phoenix. "And what are you doing here cleaning offices?" Tears threatened to fall, but Sarah held them back. "My mom got sick. Severe diabetes. Medications are expensive, and someone had to work. I left my degree and came to the city looking for a job." Ethan remained silent, absorbing the information. He had misjudged this woman from day one. "How long have you been without programming?" "I never stopped," Sarah replied with a small, sad smile. "In my free time, I take online courses, practice with small projects. It's what I love to do." "Sarah," Ethan said, and for the first time in 8 months, he spoke her name. "You just saved my company. That contract represents the future of tech solutions. I just did what any programmer would have done." "No, that's not true. My senior programmers have been working here for years, and none of them saw what you saw in seconds." Sarah picked up her gloves from the floor, trying to return to normalcy. "I'd better get back to my work. It's very late, and I still have 2 floors left." "Wait." Ethan gently stopped her by the arm. "Can I ask you a question?" She nodded. "Why didn't you say anything before? Why didn't you tell me you knew how to program?" Sarah looked him directly in the eyes for the first time. "Because I'm the cleaning employee, Mr. Vance. No one asked me what else I knew how to do." The answer hit him like a bucket of cold water. You're right. In 8 months, he had never bothered to get to know her, beyond an occasional cordial greeting. "Tomorrow I want to talk to you," he finally said, officially. "Am I in trouble?" "Quite the opposite, Sarah. I think you've just changed your life." As she walked out of the office with her cleaning cart, Ethan remained looking at the screens, which continued to show green. In 30 seconds, a woman who had been invisible to him had solved his biggest business crisis. But more than that, she had questioned everything he thought he knew about the people around him. For the first time in years, Ethan Vance felt genuinely intrigued by someone. What do you think is the deeper significance of Sarah's quick problem-solving, contrasting with the senior programmer's struggles? How does Sarah's past and her reason for leaving university humanize her in Ethan's eyes? Share your insights in the comments. Chapter 2. Between Two Worlds. Sarah arrived early at Tech Solutions the next day, with a knot in her stomach. She had slept barely 3 hours, tossing and turning over what had happened. Would they fire her? Or had Mr. Vance really been serious about changing her life? She had put on her best blouse, a sky blue one her mom had given her 2 years ago, and a pair of denim pants she kept for special occasions. Nothing luxurious, but she looked presentable. "Good morning, Miss Miller." She was greeted by Ethan's secretary, an elegant woman in her 40s. "Mr. Vance is waiting for you." Sarah felt her palms sweat as she walked towards the executive office. The same one she had cleaned hundreds of times, but now she saw it from a completely different perspective. "Come in, Sarah." Ethan stood up from his desk when he saw her enter. "How did you sleep?" "Well, not much, to be honest, I imagine. Please, have a seat." She settled into one of the chairs in front of the desk, trying not to look as nervous as she felt. "I spoke with my team this morning," Ethan began. "I explained what happened last night. They're impressed." "They weren't upset?" "Why would they be upset? You solved a problem that had been driving them crazy for days." Sarah smiled shyly. "I want to offer you a job," Ethan said bluntly. "As a developer, the salary would be $30,000 a month." Sarah almost fell off the chair. She earned $4,000 as a cleaning employee. "Mr. Vance, I don't have the degree. I only studied 6 semesters. Your degree didn't solve my problem last night. Your knowledge did. But your employees will think that." "What will they think?" Ethan leaned forward. "Sarah, you have a natural talent. I've seen programmers with master's degrees who don't have half your intuition." She fell silent, processing the offer. "May I think about it?" "Of course. But let me ask you something. What do you really want to do with your life?" The question took her by surprise. No one had asked her that in years. "Program," she replied without hesitation. "Ever since I was a little girl, I loved computers. In high school, I was the only girl in the programming club. When I started university, I finally felt like I was in my element. And what happened? My mom fainted at work. Doctors said it was type 2 diabetes, but very advanced. She needed expensive medications, specialized consultations. I was her only child. There was no other way." Ethan felt a pang in his chest. He had never had to choose between his dreams and his family. "Does your mom know you're still programming?" "I tell her they're computer courses. I don't want her to feel guilty." "Sarah, can I tell you something? Your mom should be proud. What you did last night, That's not something you learn in courses. That's in your blood. Or, her eyes filled with tears, but she didn't cry. I accept, she finally said. But on one condition. Tell me. I want to continue working cleaning at night, at least for a few weeks. I need to be sure this is going to work before I quit my other job. Ethan frowned. It's not necessary, I guarantee you that. Please, Sarah interrupted him. It's important to me. I can't risk the income my mom needs. He nodded, though he didn't like the idea of her working double shifts. All right, but only for a few weeks. Thank you, Mr. Vance. Ethan, if you're going to be part of the team, call me Ethan. The following weeks were a whirlwind for Sarah. By day, she worked as a junior developer, learning the company's methodologies and impressing her colleagues with her speed in understanding complex systems. At night, she cleaned offices, but now with a different smile. Her fellow programmers welcomed her, especially when they found out she had solved the authentication system problem. Carlos, the team leader, assigned her increasingly complex projects. All right, Sarah, he told her one afternoon. This report module has been driving me crazy since last week. How did you manage to optimize it like that? Well, the problem was it was making too many database queries. I grouped them and used some smart caching. In 2 hours, you did what I couldn't do in a week. But the situation became complicated when Ethan stayed late at work. Inevitably, their schedules crossed. Aren't you tired? He asked one night, seeing her arrive with her cleaning cart after having worked all day as a programmer. I'm fine, Sarah lied. The truth was, she was exhausted, but she couldn't afford to fail at either job. Sarah, this can't go on. You're going to get sick. Just a few more weeks. My mom's already better, and it's not just about your mom, is it? She stopped, surprised by the question. What do you mean? Are you scared? Ethan said softly. Scared that this isn't real? That you'll wake up and it will all have been a dream? Sarah felt he had read her like an open book. My whole life I've had to work twice as hard to get half, she admitted. I'm not used to good things happening to me so easily. This wasn't easy, Sarah. It cost you years of study, sacrifice, sleepless nights practicing. You earned it. Those late-night conversations became routine. Ethan found excuses to stay late, and Sarah began to look forward to those moments. They talked about technology, dreams, fears. Did you always want to be CEO? Sarah asked him one night, while organizing papers on his desk. Not really. I wanted to be an archaeologist. He laughed. But my dad founded this company, and it was expected that I would inherit it. Do you regret it? Not before, but lately. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I'm living the life others planned for me. Sarah approached the desk where he was working. My mom always says it's never too late to write your own story. Their gazes met, and for a moment, the world stopped. Ethan slowly stood up, approaching her. Sarah, Mr. Vance. Ethan? She corrected herself. I think this isn't a good idea. But she didn't pull away. He raised his hand and gently caressed her cheek. Why not? Because we're very different. You're the CEO. You're the most intelligent and courageous woman I've ever met. They kissed softly, a kiss full of tenderness and unspoken promises. When they parted, Sarah's cheeks were flushed. This is going to complicate things, she whispered. They're already complicated, Ethan replied with a smile. Ever since the night you solved my problem in 30 seconds. Sarah smiled too, but deep down in her heart, she knew she was entering dangerous territory. Because no matter how much he said they were equals, she was still the cleaning employee who had gotten lucky. And luck, as she well knew, could change at any moment. What is the significance of Sarah's condition to continue her night cleaning job, despite her new development role? How do Ethan and Sarah's late-night conversations and their first kiss reveal a growing intimacy and connection beyond work? Share your insights in the comments. Chapter 3. The Gala of Appearances. 3 months later, Sarah had proven to be an exceptional developer. She no longer worked night cleaning. Ethan finally convinced her to focus solely on programming, and her confidence had grown considerably. But her relationship with Ethan remained a secret in the office. "Sarah, I need to ask you something," Ethan told her one afternoon, entering her cubicle. "On Friday, there's a corporate gala. The international expansion of tech solutions will be announced. How exciting! It's sure to be great. I want you to come with me." Sarah looked up from her screen, confused. "As part of the work team? As my partner?" Silence stretched between them. Sarah looked around, making sure no one else had heard. "Ethan, we can't. If people find out what will they think?" He moved closer. "That I'm with the most incredible woman in the company. They'll think you gave me the job for other reasons. You know that's not true." Sarah sighed. In these 3 months, they had secretly gone out several times. Discreet dinners, walks in parks where no one would recognize them, late-night conversations in empty company apartments. She was falling in love with him, but she also knew they lived in very different worlds. "Is your family going to be there?" "Yes, but that doesn't matter." "It doesn't matter to you. It matters to me." Ethan knelt down to her eye level. "Sarah, I'm tired of hiding. I want the world to know that I'm in love with you." The words hit her like lightning. It was the first time he had used the word "in love." "Do you really feel that?" "Don't you?" Sarah felt her heart race. Of course she was in love with him, but saying it out loud made everything more real, more dangerous. "All right," she finally agreed. "But if this goes wrong, I'm the one who's going to lose." "It won't go wrong, I promise you." On Friday night, Sarah looked at herself in the mirror of her small apartment. Ethan had sent her an elegant navy blue dress with matching shoes and accessories. She looked different, almost unrecognizable, as if she were playing someone she wasn't. Her cell phone rang. It was her mom from Phoenix. "How are you, dear? You sound nervous." "I have a work event, Mom. Something important." "With your boss?" Sarah had mentioned Ethan on some calls, but she had never specified exactly what kind of relationship they had. "Yes." "With him." "Oh, Sarah, be careful. Rich bosses don't usually have good intentions with employees." "It's not like that, Mom. He's different." "That's what we all think, dear. Just be very careful." The gala was held in one of the most luxurious hotels in Beverly Hills. When Sarah arrived, she felt completely out of place. Women in designer dresses, men in tuxedos, conversations about trips to Europe and beachfront properties. Ethan waited for her at the entrance, devastatingly handsome in his black tuxedo. "You look beautiful," he said, taking her hand. "I feel like a fish out of water. You're where you need to be, with me." The first few minutes went well. Ethan introduced her to some colleagues as Sarah Miller, our best developer. No one made uncomfortable comments, though she did notice curious glances. Everything changed when the Vance family arrived. Eleanor Vance, Ethan's mother, was an elegant woman in her 60s, with the kind of beauty that comes from money and personal care. Her gaze evaluated Sarah from head to toe in seconds. "Mom, this is Sarah Miller," Ethan said confidently. "Nice to meet you, Mrs. Vance." Sarah extended her hand politely. "Miller?" Eleanor asked with a cold smile. "Where are you from, dear?" "From Phoenix, ma'am." "Ah, how quaint. And what do your parents do?" Sarah felt the trap in the question, but decided to be honest. "My mom works in a textile factory. My dad, I didn't know him." The uncomfortable silence that followed was worse than any direct insult. "How interesting," Eleanor murmured. "Ethan has always had eclectic tastes." "Mom," Ethan warned. "What?" "I'm just getting to know your friend." The situation worsened when Sebastian Hayes, Ethan's business rival, arrived, accompanied by Victoria Sterling. Sarah immediately recognized Victoria from Society magazines, model, influencer, and apparently Ethan's ex-fiancée. "Eth!" Victoria shouted with false enthusiasm, planting a kiss very close to his lips. "What a surprise to see you here with She looked Sarah up and down. The staff. Victoria. Ethan responded dryly. Sarah isn't staff. She's a senior developer at my company. Developer? Victoria laughed. Isn't she the girl who cleans the offices? Sarah felt the blood drain from her feet. The secret she had hoped to keep had come out in the worst possible way. Yes, I used to work in cleaning, Sarah admitted, lifting her chin with dignity. And I'm also a programmer. How fascinating. Victoria raised her voice intentionally. A housemaid who programs. Like those Cinderella stories we love so much, right? Conversations around them began to stop. People turned to look. Victoria, that's enough, Ethan intervened. But the damage was done. No, it's perfect, Victoria continued. It's so authentic. Ethan has always been so democratic. Let's remember he also dated the gardener's daughter when we were 18. Sarah felt her cheeks burning with humiliation. All eyes were on her, some with pity, others with morbid curiosity. Excuse me, she murmured, and headed towards the restroom. Ethan followed her, but Eleanor stopped him. Ethan, please, don't make more of a spectacle. You already have the whole gala talking. I don't care what people say. You don't care? You don't care if they speak ill of the company? Of the family? For a moment, Ethan hesitated. Sarah, who had returned to get her purse, heard the conversation from the ballroom entrance. Look, son, I understand you like to experiment, but this has gone too far. Ethan looked towards Sarah, and she saw something in his eyes that devastated her. Shame. Only for a second, but it was enough. Without saying a word, Sarah grabbed her purse and headed for the exit. Sarah, wait! Ethan shouted. But she had already disappeared into the crowd. Let her go, son, his mother told him. It's for the best for everyone. Sarah arrived at her apartment, crying with rage more than sadness. She took off the elegant dress and put on her usual pajamas. In the mirror, she looked the same as always. Sarah Miller from Phoenix, daughter of a factory worker who for a moment had believed she could play in the big leagues. Her cell phone rang. It was Ethan. She didn't answer. It rang again and again. Finally, she wrote a message. Thanks for everything. I'll submit my resignation tomorrow. The next day, very early, Sarah arrived at Tech Solutions with a handwritten resignation letter. She left it on Ethan's desk, along with her employee badge. Sarah, please, let's talk, he pleaded when he saw her leaving. There's nothing to talk about, Ethan. Last night you reminded me who I really am. That's not true. What happened last night was exactly what had to happen. Thank you for showing me my mom was right. And without looking back, Sarah Miller left Tech Solutions forever. Or so she thought. How do Eleanor and Victoria's comments about Sarah's background reveal the societal prejudices she faces? What is the significance of Sarah's realization that her mom was right about rich bosses, and how does it affect her decision to resign? Share your insights in the comments. Chapter 4. Hearts in Code. 8 months later, Sarah woke up as usual at 6 in the morning in her small room in Phoenix. Her mom was already in the kitchen making coffee, much better in health thanks to the medications Sarah could now afford with her freelance work. Good morning, dear, Carmen said, kissing her forehead. Did you stay up late working again? The app project isn't going to program itself, Mom. During these months, Sarah had built a solid reputation as an independent developer. She worked for medium-sized enterprises of Arizona and had managed to save enough to keep her mother's treatment stable. But her most important project was personal health, an application for diabetes management that had emerged from her experience caring for Carmen. Do you have a name for your app yet? Diabetes Care, Sarah replied with a smile. Sounds good, doesn't it? What Carmen didn't know was that Sarah worked on the project thinking of all the people like her mom, factory workers, domestic employees, people who didn't have access to expensive technology but did have a basic cell phone. Dear, are you never going to tell me what really happened in the city? Carmen asked while they had breakfast. Sarah almost choked on her coffee. What do you mean? I've known you since you were born. You came back very sad, and sometimes I see you get melancholic when your phone rings. It was just work, Mom. I decided it was better to come home. Carmen didn't believe her, but didn't insist. In Los Angeles, Ethan Vance was going through his worst professional and personal period. Without Sarah, Tech Solutions had lost its competitive edge. Projects were delayed, clients complained, and he had fired 3 programmers for incompetence in recent months. Mr. Vance, we need to hire more technical staff, Carlos, the development team leader, told him. Since Sarah left, we haven't been able to meet deadlines. Find the best available programmers. I've tried. The good ones are busy, and the available ones, well, they're not Sarah. Ethan hated it when they mentioned her name, not because he didn't want to remember her, but because he couldn't forget her. That afternoon, searching through old files for technical documentation, he found Sarah's personal folder on the server. He shouldn't have opened it, but curiosity got the better of him. Inside was the source code for something called diabetes care, dated from the last few days before she resigned. Opening it, he was impressed. It was a complete system for diabetes monitoring, with prediction algorithms, smart reminders, and an interface so simple that anyone could use it. But what truly moved him were the comments Sarah had left in the code. For Mom, who taught me that strength comes from love, prediction algorithm based on my family's patterns. Hope this helps more people like us. Sometimes love isn't enough, but technology can help, Ethan. He felt a lump in his throat. Sarah had been working on this while pretending everything was fine between them. She had channeled her personal pain into something that could help thousands of people. That night, for the first time in months, Ethan cried. The next day, he did something he had never done before. He investigated Sarah without intending to contact her. He wanted to know if she was okay, if she had continued developing the application. What he found surprised him. Sarah had launched a beta version of Diabeticare and had over 5,000 users in Arizona. The reviews were extraordinary. This app saved my life. It reminded me to take my medicine when I was very busy at work. Finally, an app made for people like us, not for the rich with private doctors. My mom can use it without problems, even though she barely knows about technology. Sarah had done exactly what he had never dared to do: create truly useful technology for ordinary people. Mr. Vance, his assistant said. The invitation for the Medical Startups Conference in Phoenix arrived. Ethan looked at the envelope without opening it. Have you confirmed attendance? No, sir. Do you want me to decline? Ethan thought of Sarah, probably a few hours away, creating incredible things without needing him. No, confirm I'm going. Meanwhile, in Phoenix, Sarah received a call that would change everything. Miss Miller, this is Dr. Peterson from the community hospital. We have a proposal for you. Tell me, doctor. We've been testing your Diabeticare application with our low-income diabetic patients. The results are impressive. We want to propose an official collaboration. Sarah almost fell off her chair. A collaboration? We want to integrate your application into our public health program. We would have state government funds to pay you for the development and maintenance. Seriously? Completely serious. Your application could help over 100,000 people in Arizona. When she hung up, Sarah sat in silence for several minutes. Then, she ran to the kitchen where her mom was. Mom, you won't believe it! She told her all about the hospital call, about the government funds, about the possibility of helping 100,000 people. I'm so proud of you, my daughter, Carmen said, with tears in her eyes. I always knew you'd do great things. This is just the beginning, Mom. I'm going to prove that we don't need anyone else to succeed. But deep down in her heart, Sarah knew there was a part of her that still missed Ethan. Not the millionaire CEO, but the man who used to stay late talking about dreams and fears. That night, while programming new functions for diabetes care, Sarah wrote a different comment in her code. Sometimes things end as they have to. True love also means knowing when to let go. But dreams, those never give up. What Sarah didn't know was that in a few weeks, fate would put her back in Ethan's path. And this time, both would be completely different people from the ones they had known a year ago. How does Sarah's diabetes care project embody her personal values and dreams, independent of Ethan? What is the significance of Ethan discovering Sarah's personal code comments, and how does it change his perspective on her? Share your insights in the comments. Chapter 5. The Algorithm of Forgiveness. The Medical Startups Conference in Phoenix was the most important tech event of the year in the southwestern United States. Sarah had been invited as a speaker to present diabetes care, something that made her nervous but excited. It was her opportunity to show the world what she had built. "Are you sure you don't want me to come with you?" Carmen asked, while Sarah got ready. "No, Mom, I have to do this alone." Sarah had bought herself a navy blue pantsuit with her own savings. She looked professional, confident, very different from the insecure domestic employee of 8 months ago. What Sarah didn't know was that Ethan had arrived in Phoenix the night before. After months of indecision, he had made the most difficult decision of his business life: to sell 40% of his shares in Tech Solutions to finance a completely new project. His family had reacted as he expected. "Are you crazy?" his mother had yelled at him over the phone. "Are you going to throw away everything your father built for a whim?" "It's not a whim, Mom. It's doing the right thing." "The right thing, or are you doing this for that girl?" Ethan had remained silent because the answer was complicated. Yes, Sarah had inspired him, but he had also realized that he wanted to build something that truly mattered. The main auditorium was packed when Sarah went on stage. There were businessmen, doctors, investors, and university students. For a moment, she felt overwhelmed by all the gazes. "Good morning," she began, taking a deep breath. "My name is Sarah Miller, and I want to tell you the story of how my love for my mom became technology that can save lives." Ethan, who was sitting in the last row with a cap and dark glasses, felt his heart race as he heard her voice. Sarah presented Diabeticare with a passion that captivated the entire audience. She explained how she had designed each function, thinking of her mother, of the factory workers, of the domestic employees who didn't have the time or money for complicated medical checkups. "This application isn't made for private hospitals or for people with expensive insurance," Sarah said. "It's made for my mom, for the lady who sells tacos on the corner, for the laborer who works double shifts, because they also have the right to technology that takes care of them." The applause was thunderous. Ethan applauded from his seat, proud and hurt at the same time. During the Q&A session, an investor from Los Angeles raised his hand. "Miss Miller, have you considered expanding your application nationwide? I know investment funds that would be interested." "For now, I'm focusing on Arizona," Sarah replied. "I prefer to do things well on a small scale before growing too fast." Ethan smiled. That was the practical and sensible Sarah he remembered. After the presentation, Sarah was surrounded by doctors, students, and local businessmen. She felt on top of the world until she saw a familiar figure approaching. Ethan had taken off his cap and glasses. His gaze was different, more humble, more mature. "Hello, Sarah." She felt the world stop. All the conversations around her became background noise. "What are you doing here?" she asked, trying to maintain her composure. "I came to listen to you and to apologize." "Ethan, this isn't the place or the time." "You're right. Can we talk privately?" Sarah looked around. She had commitments with the local press and meetings with hospital doctors. "I have a very tight schedule." "I understand. Tomorrow?" She hesitated. A part of her wanted to tell him to go to hell, but another part, the one that still held feelings for him, won. "The Daily Grind coffee shop downtown, at 5 in the afternoon." The next day, Sarah arrived punctually at the cafe. Ethan was already there, nervous, with a folder in his hands. "You look good," he said when she sat down. "Successful, happy." "I'm fine," Sarah replied dryly. "What did you want to tell me?" Ethan took a deep breath. "First, I want to apologize. For the gala, for not defending you as I should have, for being a coward. It's over, Ethan." "No, it's not over. Not for me. I've lived these 8 months thinking about that night, about how I failed you." Sarah felt her defenses begin to crumble, but she held firm. "And what do you want me to say? That it's okay? That I forgive you? I want you to know that that night I realized something. That I was living the life that others had planned for me, not the one I wanted." "And what is the life you want?" Ethan opened the folder and took out some documents. "A life with you. A life building things that really matter." Sarah looked at the papers. They were legal documents for a new company. Health Tech Solutions, Inc., a startup focused on medical applications for low-income communities. Her name appeared as co-founder and technical CEO. "What is this?" "It's my proposal. I sold part of Tech Solutions to finance this. I want us to work together creating accessible medical technology for all people." Sarah read the documents carefully. The proposal was serious, well-structured, and gave her total control over the technical decisions. "Why, Ethan? Why now?" "Because you taught me that true success isn't in bank accounts, but in using our talents to do good. Because you're the most intelligent and courageous person I've ever known." They were silent for several minutes. "Also because I love you, Sarah, and I want to spend the rest of my life showing you that love can be stronger than any social barrier." Sarah felt her eyes fill with tears. "Ethan, during these months I've been working with an incubator at the University of Arizona. Diabetes care already has government funds, and we're about to expand to 3 more states." Ethan felt a pang of panic. "Does that mean you don't need my proposal?" "It means I don't need your money," Sarah said with a small smile. "But maybe I need your love." "Seriously?" Sarah got up from the table and approached him. "Ethan Vance, you're a fool. You could have looked for me months ago. Is that a yes?" Instead of responding, Sarah kissed him passionately, right there in the middle of the cafe, while other customers watched them with knowing smiles. "Is that a yes?" she whispered against his lips, "but with conditions. Whatever you want. First, no secrets. If we're going to do this, we do it openly, no matter what your family says. I accept. Second, my project with the university is still going strong. We can collaborate between the 2 companies, but diabetes care is mine. Of course. And third, if you ever embarrass me again, even for a second, I swear this time I'll disappear forever." Ethan took her hands. "Sarah Miller, I will never again be ashamed of anything to do with you. On the contrary, I want the whole world to know that I'm lucky enough to love you." They kissed again, and this time Sarah knew it was different. She was no longer the insecure cleaning employee, nor was he the CEO who lived to please others. They were 2 people who had grown, who had learned, and who had found their way back to each other. "One question," Sarah said when they separated. "Does your mom still think I'm a gold digger?" Ethan laughed. "When she finds out you rejected my money, but accepted my love, I think she's going to have to change her mind." "She better," Sarah responded with a mischievous smile, "because this time, I'm not leaving so easily." How does Sarah's passionate defense of her work and values at the conference lead to her reunion with Ethan? What is the significance of Sarah's conditions for accepting Ethan's proposal, particularly her demand for honesty and transparency? Share your insights in the comments. Chapter 6. Compiling Love. 6 months after their reunion in Phoenix, Sarah and Ethan had built something beautiful, both personally and professionally. Diabetacare had grown to have 100,000 active users in 5 states, while Health Tech Solutions specialized in creating accessible medical technology for public hospitals. "Look at this," Sarah told Ethan one morning, as they reviewed statistics in their new shared office in Phoenix. We have reports that our application has helped reduce diabetic emergencies by 30% in the hospitals where we've implemented it. That's incredible, my love. Your mom must be super proud. Sarah smiled. Carmen had become the couple's #1 fan, especially after personally meeting Ethan. You know what? Sarah said suddenly. I never thought I'd say this, but I think I'm ready. Ready for what? To officially meet your family. Ethan almost choked on his coffee. Seriously? After everything that happened, look, I'm not the same person I was a year ago. Now, I know who I am and what I'm worth. If your family can't accept it, that's their problem, not ours. Ethan looked at her with admiration. Sarah's confidence had grown impressively, and she was no longer the insecure cleaning employee who hid behind blue uniforms. All right, but I warn you, my mom is still difficult. All mothers-in-law are difficult at first. Sarah laughed. My mom also made your life impossible for the first few weeks. It was true. Carmen had subjected Ethan to an exhaustive interrogation when she officially met him, asking him questions about his intentions, his work, and his ability to make her daughter happy. The family dinner at the Vance home in Los Angeles was as tense as Ethan had feared. Eleanor Vance greeted Sarah with cold courtesy, while Ethan's father, Robert Vance, seemed more open but cautious. Sarah, Ethan tells us you have a medical technology company, Robert Vance said during dinner. That's right, Mr. Vance. We develop applications for the management of chronic diseases in low-income communities. And is it profitable? Eleanor asked, with a tone that clearly suggested she doubted the answer. Very profitable, Sarah calmly replied. Last year, we had $12 million in revenue, and this year, we expect to reach $20 million. The silence that followed was eloquent. Eleanor clearly didn't expect that answer. Furthermore, Sarah continued, we just signed a contract with the Department of Health to implement our applications in public hospitals in 10 states. Impressive, Robert Vance genuinely murmured, surprised. What my daughter means, Eleanor intervened, is that it's very admirable that you've overcome your initial circumstances. Sarah felt the comment like a slap, but she took a deep breath before responding. Mrs. Vance, I understand that my initial circumstances make you uncomfortable. I come from a working-class family with no money, no well-known name, but those circumstances don't define me. They taught me to work hard, to value what I have, and never to give up. Sarah, Ethan began, but she stopped him with a glance. I haven't finished, Sarah continued, looking directly at Eleanor. I love your son, Mrs. Vance, not for his money, not for his name, but for the man he is, and he loves me for who I am, not for who his parents would have preferred him to be. And what guarantee do we have that you won't leave him when someone better comes along? Eleanor asked bluntly. The same guarantee as any couple in the world. None, Sarah replied. Love is a risk, Mrs. Vance, but it's a risk worth taking. Robert Vance cleared his throat uncomfortably. Eleanor, I think the young lady has been very clear and honest. Furthermore, Ethan added, taking Sarah's hand across the table, I want you to know that I'm going to propose to her. Sarah turned to him, surprised. They hadn't talked about marriage officially. Seriously? Seriously? Ethan smiled. In fact, he stood up from the table and knelt beside Sarah's chair. Sarah Miller, will you marry me? Sarah felt her heart leap from her chest. There was no ring, no prepared speech, just Ethan kneeling in his parents' dining room, looking at her with eyes full of love. Ethan, are you crazy? She whispered with tears in her eyes. Crazy for you. Is that a yes? Of course it's a yes. They kissed while Robert Vance applauded, and Eleanor remained in shock. 3 months later, Sarah was in her childhood bedroom in Phoenix, putting on the wedding dress she had chosen. Simple, but elegant. Very much her. Are you nervous, dear? Carmen asked her as she adjusted her veil. A little, but it's the easiest decision I've made in my life. Your dad would be proud to see you like this. Sarah smiled. They had decided to get married in Phoenix, in an intimate ceremony, in the garden of the house where she had grown up. It was important to her that her roots were part of this moment. The wedding was perfect. Ethan had cried when he saw Sarah walk towards him on Carmen's arm. The vows they wrote for each other made all the guests cry. "Sarah," Ethan said in front of the improvised altar under a jacaranda tree, "you taught me that true love knows no social barriers. You taught me that real wealth is in using our talents to help others. And you taught me that sometimes the best things happen when we least expect them." "Ethan," Sarah responded, "you gave me the opportunity to show what I'm worth when no one else had. You taught me that I deserve to be loved for who I am, not for what others expect me to be. And you showed me that true love is what makes you grow, not what makes you small." When the civil judge declared them husband and wife, everyone applauded. Even Eleanor Vance, who had ended up accepting that Sarah was not the gold digger she had imagined. During the party, as they danced their first song as husband and wife, Ethan whispered in her ear, "You know what's the most beautiful thing about all this?" "What?" "That it started with 30 seconds of code, and it became a whole life together." Sarah laughed. "The best algorithm I've ever programmed is the one that brought me back to you." "Do you have any bugs to report?" Ethan joked. "None. This program is running perfectly." They kissed as their families, friends, and employees from both companies watched them with smiles. It was the union not only of two people, but of two worlds that had learned to respect each other. Later that night, Sarah found Carmen chatting with Eleanor Vance in a corner of the garden. "Everything all right here?" Sarah asked, cautiously approaching. "Your mom was telling me how proud she is of you," Eleanor said, "and I was asking her forgiveness for having been so difficult." Sarah was surprised. "Seriously?" Eleanor sighed. "You're right, Sarah. Love isn't about last names or bank accounts. It's about finding someone who makes you a better person, and you've done that with my son. Thank you, Mrs. Vance. It means a lot to me. Call me Eleanor, and welcome to the family." When Sarah and Ethan said goodbye that night to go on their honeymoon in Hawaii, both knew they had built something solid and lasting. Not only had they found love, they had found a way to build a future together, where their differences made them stronger, not weaker. And it all began with a cleaning employee who couldn't resist fixing a broken code in 30 seconds. Sometimes, the best programs are born from the most unexpected errors. Epilogue. Executing forever. 2 years after the wedding in Phoenix, Sarah woke up to the familiar sound of Ethan's keyboard from the home office. She smiled, seeing it was 6:30 in the morning. After 2 years of marriage, he was still a compulsive early riser when he had important projects. She got up and went to the kitchen to make coffee, enjoying the view of their new home. A simple but comfortable house in a quiet neighborhood of Phoenix, half an hour from downtown, where they had their offices. "Good morning, my love," Ethan said, appearing in the kitchen with disheveled hair and a smile. "Did you sleep well?" "Better than you, apparently. What time did you get up?" "Around 5. I'm excited about this month's numbers." Sarah served him coffee and sat next to him at the table where they usually had breakfast while planning the day. "Tell me, Diabeticare now has 300,000 active users in 12 states, and Health Tech Solutions just signed with 2 more hospitals in Texas. Seriously?" Sarah felt the familiar excitement she always got from knowing her work was reaching more people. "And that's not all. Yesterday, the director of the Department of Health called. They want to propose our applications for the National Diabetes Prevention Program." Sarah almost choked on her coffee. "National, as in nationwide?" "Nationwide, my love. We're talking about more than 2 million potential users." They hugged in the kitchen, celebrating as they always did, with coffee and plans to help more people. Her phone rang. It was Carmen, who now lived in a small house Sarah had bought her 3 blocks away. "Good morning, Mom." "Good morning, dear. Did you see the news?" "What news?" "It was in the newspaper. An article about successful young couples in Phoenix. It says you two are an example of social entrepreneurship. Sarah and Ethan looked at each other and laughed. An example of what? Sarah asked. Of social entrepreneurship, dear. It says you started with nothing and now help hundreds of thousands of people. Oh, Mom, is it true? It says your application has reduced hospitalizations for diabetes by 40% in the places where they use it. After hanging up, Sarah remained thoughtful. What are you thinking about? She asked Ethan. How strange all this is. 3 years ago I was a cleaning employee, and you lived only to please your family. Look where we are now. Do you regret anything? Not at all, Sarah replied without hesitation. I'm even glad the gala happened. Seriously? Seriously. If that hadn't happened, maybe we never would have grown as people. I would still feel inferior, and you would still be living the life others planned for you. Ethan kissed her gently. You're right. Sometimes the worst things that happen to us are the ones that teach us the most. That afternoon, they had a video conference with a group of medical students from the University of Arizona who were using diabetes care for a research project. Sarah greatly enjoyed these sessions because they reminded her why she did what she did. Dr. Miller, a student told her during the call, we want to thank you for creating something so accessible. My grandmother can use the application without problems, and that's incredible. Sarah smiled. It still amused her that they called her doctor, even though she didn't have the official degree. The University of Arizona had granted her an honorary doctorate the year before for her contribution to digital public health. The point was exactly that, she replied, that anyone, regardless of their educational or economic level, could take care of their health. After the video conference, Ethan and Sarah went to their favorite spot, a small cafe in the historic center of Phoenix where they used to work when they didn't want to be in the office. Do you know what day it is today? Ethan asked as they ordered their usual coffees. Thursday, March 15th. It's Thursday, March 15th, but it's exactly 3 years since you solved my authentication system problem. Sarah fell silent, surprised that he remembered the exact date. Has it really been 3 years? 3 years since a cleaning employee with yellow gloves saved my company in 30 seconds and changed your life forever, Sarah added with a smile. You know what's the craziest thing about all this? What? That at that moment, I thought I was giving you an opportunity. But in reality, you were the one who gave me an opportunity. Sarah took his hand across the table. We gave each other opportunities. That's what true love does. Speaking of true love, Ethan pulled a small box from his pocket. I have something for you. Ethan, we're already married. You don't need... Open it. Inside, there was a simple but beautiful ring with a small inscription inside that read, True Love Found. Version 2.0. Sarah laughed. Version 2.0? The first version had some bugs. This is the stable version. Ethan became serious. Sarah, I want to renew our vows. Why? Because when we got married, we still had fears, insecurities. Now, I know with absolute certainty that I want to spend the rest of my life with you, building things that matter, helping people who need it. Sarah felt tears in her eyes. And when do you plan for us to renew those vows? How about right now? Ethan got up from the table. Sarah Miller Vance, do you promise to continue being my partner in love, in work, and in life? Ethan Vance Miller, do you promise to keep believing that the best algorithm is the one that keeps us together? Forever. Then yes, I accept. Again, they kissed in the middle of the cafe, while other customers smiled at the scene. It was the kind of spontaneous moment that had defined their relationship from the beginning. That night, lying in bed, Sarah reflected on the journey they had traveled. You know what I'm most proud of everything we've achieved? She asked Ethan. What? That we never lost who we were in the process. I'm still the daughter of Carmen Miller from Phoenix, and you're still the son of Robert Vance from Los Angeles. Only now we're better versions of ourselves. And we're a team, the best team in the world. Ethan hugged her tighter. What do you think our next project will be? I don't know. Maybe an app for new moms, or something for seniors. Or maybe, Sarah paused mischievously, Maybe our next project won't be an app. What do you mean? Maybe it's time to compile something completely new. Something that combines your code and mine. Ethan took a second to understand, but when he did, his smile lit up the entire room. Seriously? Seriously. I think I'm ready for the most important project of our lives. They stayed up very late that night, talking about dreams, plans, and the future they were building together. A future that had begun with 30 seconds of code and now extended towards infinite possibilities. On the nightstand, next to Sarah's new ring, was a photo of their wedding in Phoenix. In it, they looked happy, surrounded by their families, who had learned to love each other, celebrating a love that had overcome all barriers. But the most beautiful thing of all was knowing that that photo was just the beginning of the story, not the end. Because the best code is the one that never stops running. And the love of Sarah and Ethan was a program that ran perfectly, version after version, update after update, forever.